You know what you should do? You should follow me on Twitter at Brommer018. Link in the description. Do it now. Hello everyone, welcome to another video on our FIFA 20 Custom Tactics series, a series where we recreate and also adapt real systems in FIFA 20. Today we're going to be taking a look at Quique Setien's tactics whilst he was at Real Betis. Of course, he was announced as the Barcelona manager most recently, as I'm recording this just a few days ago. So I wanted to take a look at the tactics he sort of employed at Real Betis. Now, I'm going to preface this video by saying today we're just going to be showing you the 4-3-3 that he utilised. Now, of course, particularly during his last season at Betis, but in general, he would rotate to a 3-back system. Sometimes it would be a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-6-1, whatever you sort of see it as. So he did do that as well. But today we're going to be looking at the 4-3-3 because I believe that this is going to be closer to the system that we will see him employ at Barcelona. I think it suits that team well, and it's certainly one that's worked for them over the years. So today, purely the 4-3-3. So, Quique's been sort of renowned really for his stubbornness in the way that he believes and what he believes in terms of his philosophies in football. It's very much about maintaining possession of the ball, playing on the front foot and pressing high as well. A very patient possession style of game, and that's something you're going to have to look to do if you want to replicate this system and play with it in game. So we've got this 4-3-3 holding system. That's what you want to change to first. And first of all, we are going to alter a couple of positions, just the fullbacks. What we've done in quite a lot of videos in this series. What you want to do is you want to change these from fullbacks into wingbacks, and the reason being is that then you'll find that not only will they get further forward compared to fullbacks, but also they will get wider. They'll create more width, and in this system the fullbacks are what create the width for the team, whereas the wingers would be more cutting inside and coming short. Therefore the fullbacks will create those options where you can switch it out wide, and that's very important for this system, the fact that you'll be able to go across the pitch and spread out opposition defences. So that's it for just altering positions, nothing else you need to do. Now we'll move on to the player instructions before we go on to the tactics. We'll start with the goalkeeper and work our way up. So it's a very high line, as you'd imagine in a high pressing, high possession system. So as a result, of course, you want your keeper to be a sweeper keeper. Not only should he be essentially the 11th man in terms of how he comes out and shows for the ball and adds another passing option when you're playing it through the defence, but also because you're playing a high line, he will of course offer that extra supporting role for balls over the top through to pacey opposition players. And in terms of saving on crosses, you want him to come for crosses as well. This is to make him more aggressive and also relieve some pressure off you as a player, because it's fairly hard to defend crosses on this game, I've found, and there are a couple of issues with it. So if you have him on comes for crosses, it just relieves a bit of pressure on you, and it's easier to defend corners in particular. The two centre-backs will remain the same. One thing that we always mention is, unless I specify otherwise, keep the interceptions on normal. If you change it to aggressive, they will drain stamina, and you don't find that there's much of an improvement on if you've got normal, but you've got constant pressure set onto the tactics. So there's not really any need for you to switch this to aggressive. And, there's no need for conservative interceptions either. So keep them on normal, and of course they do stay back whilst attacking. In terms of the fullbacks, very self-explanatory. You want them to join the attack and you want them on overlap. As I alluded to earlier on, these are what create the width in this system. The fullbacks are the widest players, whereas the wingers you'd find are more inclined to sort of cut inside and show for short passing options. So when you want to switch the ball from side to side, which is very important in this system, the wingers are what are gonna, the wing back, will be what create the width for this system. So join the attack and overlap, and make sure you have changed them to wing backs as well. Moving on to the holding midfielder now. First of all, in terms of defensive behaviour, you want to set him to man mark. Now, it is a man marking system anyway, but it's in particular you want to do it on FIFA in general. Usually we'll set the holding midfielders to man mark because what you'll find is there's quite an annoying bug actually, and it's how I concede a high proportion of the goals when I do concede is midfielders. pushing into the box, opposition midfielders pushing into the box, and my midfielders not following them in. So you want them on man mark, so hopefully they should follow those runs in, and you'll find there'll be less players free in the box for cutbacks and crosses. In terms of attacking support, what you actually want is to him to drop between the defenders. Now, this is very important. The role of the holding midfielder in this instance, it is William Carvalho. One, he drops between defenders to give them an extra option when playing out from the back. Relieve a bit of pressure off the other players, give them another option so that they can lay it off. Two, if you're facing against someone, say Barcelona for example, and this is something that they have done against the likes of Barca and Real Madrid, is if you get more midfielders dropping off, what will happen is then either they become a free man and you can play it out to them, or the opposition midfielders will then follow them in, man mark them, and then it allows you to play over the top of them. Not a direct ball, but more of a medium pass. And what that is then it frees up space for these two central midfielders, because of course they've followed in the likes of Carvalho, the Manning, to try and stop them playing out from the back, and then they can play from there. And this is something that you know, they would utilise so often against high pressing teams, and it just works so well. It kind of makes you puzzled, the fact that more teams don't do this. You know, try and draw players out and just play over the top of them. It doesn't have to be a direct ball smashed, you know, 80 yards up the field. It could just be a little chip into those central midfielders, and then you can go and you can feed off them. So you want him to drop between defenders, and you should find that this will certainly help in those instances. And in terms of defensive positioning, switch this to cover centre. You want him and the two centre-backs covering the central areas of the field. The wings, should they be free, will be down to these two here. And we will move on to these two as well. Now, usually the central midfielders in other tactics that we've done on this channel have quite a lot of instructions, but in this case actually not so much. The only thing that you do want is for these to stay on the edge of the box. In terms of attacking support, you actually don't want these on get forward, or you don't want them on stay back. The reason being is that if they're on get forward, they'll be more of a box to box midfielders, and that's not the role that they play within Quique's system. It was very much about patient possession, and this is what you're going to need to sort of replicate if you want to play with this system. It's very patient. Stop looking for the forward pass every single time. So many times I'll come across people online and they're just looking to go forward with every single pass. Calm down, relax, go side to side, patiently wait, probe for your opening. And this is the reason why you want these on stay on the edge of the box. They're there to help you recycle possession, and also to offer you those short sort of possession based interchanges when going forward. So for example, if you're against a team who's defending very narrow, you've got these in the middle, but then you can switch it side to side because you've got the wing backs creating the width, and then the opposition get dragged along, but because they can't move as fast as the ball is moving, then of course you'll find that then you get in space. Or if they're defending a little bit wider, maybe playing a bit more of a man-to-man sort of marking system, then you can use these three, and also the wingers who will drop off and come short as well, to do lots of short, quick interchanges and try and play through the opposition. So, like I say, that's why you want them on balance, because then you're going to find, rather than them, you know, running in beyond the striker, it's going to be a bit more of a rigid, bit more structured to your attacks. And like I say, you've got to play in that way. Stop trying to look, stop being so impatient. You know, play patient, play possession based, and you know, and this can work for you. Other than that, though, everything else is very, very standard. You want these on cover wing. Of course, you've got the free cover in the centre. These will fill in the gap should these two, you know, wingers and the wing backs have advanced forward. We need to change into stay on the edge of the box. So yeah, that is good. Now we move on to the front three. First of all, with the wingers. Now, it's a very hard working system, and that is something he demands. Not only does he demand high pressing and intensity, but also in situations where, say, the opposition have advanced up the field, perhaps played through your press, then he wants the wingers coming back, tracking back, in particular any fullbacks that may be overlapping on their wingers. So you want both of these wingers to be coming back on defence. In terms of chance creation, you want these to cut inside. We've mentioned the patient build-up play in terms of possession. These will offer another option, and therefore that's why you want support runs, come short and cut inside. Therefore, not only do you crowd out the middle more, but also, like I say, if the opposition are playing very narrow, then it creates more space for your wing backs to overlap, and therefore you've got those options out wide should you need it. And that's on both of them as well. In terms of support and crosses, you want both of these to get into the box with a cross. Then, what's important is then you've got that variation. So, of course, we've got them coming short. We'll have them dropping off. But in situations where there is a ball coming in, then you can get those two supporting the front man. And then you've got more options in the box going forward. And then they're not going to be quite so passive in terms of attacking moves. So that is it for the wingers. Come back on defence, cut inside, come short, and also get into the box for the cross as well. Now we move on to the front man, very much the leading man and the pinnacle of this team. First of all, you want him to stay central. Basically, what we're going to say is he's going to be very rigid and he's going to be very passive in the game. If you're playing against a defensive team, this striker is not going to get a lot of touches, you know, but the most important thing is that he sticks with that. Very, very patient. So what you want is you want him to stay central, stay rigid, stay as part of the structure, don't drift out wide. You know, inside the 18-yard box and stuff, that's when he'll very much come alive. In terms of attacking runs, you want him getting in behind. Now, of course, this is fine, very self-explanatory if you're playing a high-pressing team. If you're playing against a team who, say, for example, has dropped off a lot, then you still want to keep him on getting behind, because the reason being is that, you know, rather than dropping off, which is what you'd think he would need to do in case of coming against a team like that, he'll stay within the 18-yard box, and that's where you want him. Stay patient. Again, I can't emphasize it enough. Stay patient in this system. Work the opening, and therefore the striker has to do the same. Don't get him dropping off, playing as a false 9. Keep him in the 18-yard box, and the goals will come. And in terms of defensive support, you want him to stay forward. Of course, like I say, he is that outlet, he is the outball, and he will remain the pinnacle of the attacking moves. Therefore, you don't want him dropping off. You've got all the other players dropping off into what will become a 4-5-1 out of possession. So the striker is very much the target man and the outball. Now we move on to the tactics side of the system. First of all, working on defence, you want this constant pressure. Very self-explanatory, of course. The majority of possession-based tactics are, you know, also gegenpressing tactics when defending. And that's because they don't want to give the opposition any time, any space, and they want the ball as much as possible. That's the best way of defending in this system. So you want that on a gegenpressing style, i.e. constant pressure. And then in terms of width, you actually want to move this up to 5. Now, the reason being is that if you go for 3, teams are going to try and play around you. Whereas it's more of a man-marking system, particularly against the really good teams, against the tests, i.e. the likes of Barca, Real Madrid. Less Atletico, because of course they have a different system. They're not an attacking side. They like to be rigid and robust. But in terms of these sort of situations, you want this on 5, because then it's very much in the middle in terms of not allowing teams to play through you, but also you can stick to that man-marking system and you're giving opposition players less time on the ball and less space out wide. In terms of depth, move this up to 8. It, of course, is a high defensive line. The reason why we don't move this up to 10 and just keep it on 8 is because that's the first line on the border. If you have a look at the top where it says depth, it will then become more of a mid-block if you move it to 7. If you move it up to 8, of course, it becomes a high line, but you're still giving yourself a little bit of leeway, because on FIFA, it's very easy for people to exploit the fact that, you know, they can just get a pacey striker and run in behind, send balls over the top. It becomes too easy, a bit nonsensical, actually. So if you move this up to 8, it just gives you a little bit of leeway. They'll drop off a little bit, but it will still be a high defensive line, and therefore you can complement the press, you know, for the rest of your team and stay as high up and as active as possible. Moving on to the offensive side of the ball, of course, possession, that's self-explanatory. I've explained that. You don't need me to go in depth on that. In terms of width, once again, you want to stick this down to 5. So because we're possession, we've gone possession for the offensive style, it means that players are going to come shorter. Don't forget that we also altered the wingers as well to come short. So you're going to have a lot of short options in narrow areas. However, out wide, you're going to have the wing backs creating that width, and that's where 5 comes from. But it's also why you don't need to move this up to, say, you know, 8, 9, 10, etc. because we did change them to wing backs, and therefore they are going to be very wide anyway. So if you stick this at 5, you know, it's going to give you that more balanced sort of option, and, you know, you'll be able to rotate as well. In terms of players in the box, stick this on 6. Then you've got 3, roughly 3 getting into the box. You'll have a couple circulating outside as well. Therefore, you've got the front men i.e. the two wingers and the striker in the box, and then the likes of, in this system, Guardado, Fekir, etc. on the edge, as well as the wing backs as well, and that will give you enough support outside to recycle possession should it come back out of the opposition box. And finally, on corners and free kicks, we're going to move this up to 4 for both of them. This is something we do in every single video. The reason being is that then it will leave you 2 men back, and that is more than enough to defend any counter-attack. And it will give you more options in the box to actually be a threat from set pieces. The opposition are never going to leave more than 1 man. Well, they're certainly never going to leave more than 2 men. Probably not going to leave more than 1 man up front on corners because they've got to defend the set piece. So therefore, having 2 back should be more than enough to defend any corners and wide free kicks, etc. So that would just about round it off for this video. If you've got any questions on the system, anything you want to know, then do let me know in the comment section and I'll get back to you. If you want me to show the other system as well, the 3-6-1, 3-4-2-1, whatever you see it as, then get at me in the comment section and I can be sure to upload that at some point as well. There are little differences, of course. You got 3 centre backs, etc. You got different approaches to the wide men and that. So, there are differences in that system, and of course in the way it plays in game as well. So I didn't want to merge them into one. But like I say, if you want to see that, then just let me know. Got lots of videos coming your way, lots of tactics that we are going to look at, so be sure to look out for them. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so that you get notifications every time I upload, and therefore you won't miss out on any of them. Don't forget to check out my AC Milan Career Mode series that is currently ongoing as well. On that note, we are going to finish it off there. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it, and let me know that you are enjoying it. Get me in the comment section with any more suggestions. And on that note, we're going to finish it off there. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.